coming to the program now after an incredible almost 2 hours with our friend Ryan Christian, the man behind Live Free Academy, Exit and Build, a whole number of other businesses, projects. This guy works like 85 hours a day. So we're stoked that he was able to get a little bit of time to come hang out with us. John Bush, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, man. It's nice to meet you.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Sure. I got to be honest with you, John Bush. I asked him yesterday. Steve has gotten musicians on the show before. So I'm like, is this the dude from Anthrax? Is he coming on, dude? John Bush, let's go. What are we talking about? He's like, nope, it's a different John Bush. But
yeah, so how was your time with Ice-T?
Yes. Did you?
That's right.
Yeah.
No, I can beatbox, but not drum very well. Give me a djembe and I'll put on a show for you.
Right. How's it going, man? How are things? I'm stoked to have you on. There's a whole lot that we can get into with you, and I'm looking forward to doing that. But if you want to take a second, just kind of introduce yourself to a handful of the people in the audience who may not be familiar with you, that would be fantastic.
Sure. My name's John Bush. I live in Central Texas on a 10-acre homestead with my lovely fiance and my 2 kiddos. And I've been an activist for about 20 years now for truth and freedom. First got started questioning the official narrative of what took place on September 11th. And that led me down a rabbit hole researching false flag terrorism and this effort to create a global totalitarian dictatorship. I learned about libertarianism from the good Dr. Ron Paul back in 2007, 2008 for his campaign. And we actually started a political action committee after that, did the political thing for a while. But the entire time I was not satisfied with those efforts. I was really after true freedom, as in a voluntary society where people can live their lives according to their own ends. And that's what led me to get into the creation of alternative institutions. So there's a lot of folks that are banging their head against the wall in the political channels. There's folks that are screaming at government buildings as though it's going to bring about any change. And what I recognized was if we want to find freedom in our lives, we have to create those systems and those institutions and the infrastructure and the networks that will enable us to experience true freedom. And so that's what I've focused the past decade of my life on, creating alternatives when it comes to money, with cryptocurrency, with trade networks and barter, alternative communities like the Freedom Cell Network. We have over 33,000 people that are working together to create freedom. And
I'm one of them.
Yeah. All right. Let's go.
Hey.
So, yeah. And lately we've been encouraging people to exit the cities and buy land and build community in the country, because I really think that we can experience greater freedom and self-reliance getting out of these technocratic smart cities. So that's me. That's what I'm all about. And I'm really excited to be on your program.
Heck yeah, man. I had a couple of friends that were a part of Exit and Build. Sam Tripoli's a homie and all that kind of stuff. Charlie Robinson's a good friend. All that sort of thing. I think they were down there for Float too. There was a number of things going on in Texas. There was a hempcrete workshop that you were going to have at Exit and Build, and I really want to get into hempcrete as a solution for things that people can do in terms of producing their own building materials. I would like if we could have a conversation about like small scale farming in terms of like, I don't know, just community sustainability. What kind of facilities are required to produce either, both hempcrete and maybe like fiberboard or hemp plywood or some shit like that? Because I don't know if you've seen the schematics for hemp plywood, man, but it's awesome.
Yeah. No. I also want to know about
awesome.
What I've been bugging Steve about was the hemp pellets that we can subsidize coal with. I want to know about that if you have any knowledge on that. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I like hemp. I like CBD. I like Delta 8 THC, actually. It's like a legal loophole coming from the hemp plant. We actually have free gummies for people to try, freed8gummies.com, freed8gummies.com. But I'm familiar with hemp building mostly from our good friends River and Amani at havenearth.biz. So we're actually working with them on a big project to develop a 188-acre property into a functioning eco-village with natural building. So they often put on these hemp building workshops. So for folks that are really interested in building with hemp, it's completely natural. It's a lot of folks don't recognize that when you build a single family home or even RVs and tiny homes, there's all sorts of off-gassing of chemicals. My fiance used to sell tiny homes, and when they would first get delivered from the manufacturer, there's all these warnings like do not be in the home for a considerable amount of time when they get hot because they off-gas. So that's another benefit of the hemp building. You're building with completely natural materials, so there's not any negative health effects. Not to mention, it's definitely better for the environment. It's more accessible. And thankfully, government is finally catching up and recognizing that they were engaged in some pretty serious chicanery and misdirection for quite some time. So, yeah, I'm not familiar. I haven't built anything with hemp myself. I've smoked hemp, but I would definitely point people in the direction of River and Amani. I'd love to link you guys up with them. They speak at a lot of our events. They were at the Exit and Build Land Summit, and they're the ones that were hosting that hempcrete building workshop that took place in Blanco, Texas.
Yeah. I did construction, carpentry, all that stuff for 25 years before doing this full time, and it's one of the more toxic industries in terms of what you're handling. Mm-hmm. And the vast majority of guys in construction have this aversion to gloves. Like you have to talk people into putting gloves on your hands, and it's like, no, dude, you're touching cancer all day long, multiple forms of it. You're handling it, you're getting cut on the job, it's getting into your body, you're breathing all this stuff in. This is why everybody, like at our house at least, knew, and everybody that I'd known for 20 years that in the trades when I lived in the Santa Cruz Mountains, knew masks were bullshit. Mm-hmm. Because we had all had to wear them for drywall, or we had all had to wear them for insulation or any, paint, shit like that, dude. And we knew how masks work and what they did and what they didn't do. Yeah, and what they didn't do. Because I do enjoy the journey of an individual from political activist to fuck it, we need to go outside of this and build up community on our own. Because I don't think you can demonstrate to other people practical survival out of the technocratic state without showing them that it's possible, achievable, that it can work, that you can have an economy that functions counter to central banking. And maybe we can get into that a little bit, because I do think that breaking the stranglehold that central banks have on us is the way to wage warfare in the 21st century.
Sure. Yeah, it's my firm belief that governments are operating exactly as they were intended to, which is to leverage the monopoly state in order to benefit those in power at the expense of everyone else. So the politics, the elections, whatever, it's all a big giant fraud, not just the most recent election, but every single one. And if people want to experience true freedom, we have to take responsibility for creating that freedom in our lives. And of course, it's made all the more simple and accomplishable when we work together with other people. So I wholeheartedly agree. Like, one of the best things we can do to educate people about liberty and freedom is to show them that it works. And one thing I think cryptocurrency gave us was a demonstration of freedom and decentralization on a global scale, without any leaders, without any corporations, without any governments. People can send value back and forth with this decentralized blockchain technology, right? It's really super groovy. And what we've done with the Freedom Cell Network, over 33,000 people, there's countless stories of people that felt they were all alone and isolated when the lockdowns were happening. A lot of people woke up, of course, with the lockdowns, and then the bailouts before that, and then the Iraq war and 9/11 before that. But I think they overplayed their hand, really. But a lot of people were like, we thought we were all alone and isolated. We learned about the Freedom Cell Network. We pulled our kids out of government school. Now we have a homeschool co-op. we just recently did this meat share where we had a whole cow slaughtered and we distributed it to like 16 or 20 people that purchased shares in this beef share program we did. So while a lot of folks are focused on all the chaos and the problems and the corruption in the world and the food scarcity, we are actually shoring up our food security by working together with other people and doing it in a decentralized, voluntary way. So I think that the tide is turning, and because of the technology and because of the overall awareness that people have of the state of the world and how corrupt and failed government and mega corporations are, and how centralization is completely risky and leaves us vulnerable, we really are on the precipice of a great opportunity to shift the course of history towards freedom and away from tyranny.
We're gonna be speaking Friday with Texas Slim from the Texas Beef Initiative, who is trying to start like a rancher cooperative processing center, because there's such a capture and regulatory capture around the processing centers that exist. There's only like 4 or 6 companies that are allowed to handle any sort of FDA approved, I guess, meat in the country. And when you've got those kinds of limits mixed in with that level of corruption, you get the kind of thing where now organic doesn't mean organic. You can have 180 some chemicals in it and still have it be organic. There's still glyphosate and everything. There's still microplastics and all of it, all that kind of stuff. And so you've pushed people who have legitimate solutions to these problems, who have legitimately innovated a way around it. You disincentivize that, and people just throw up their hands. So as long as there are people on the ground providing opportunities and alternatives, I think we need to have these conversations as much as possible, even though you're a vegan.
I was going to say, John, can I come live on your commune if I'm a vegan? Do we have other opportunities for like growing our own vegetables and stuff like that?
Sure. Well, we don't have a commune, but I guess we call it an intentional community. That's a funny word, though. But I do appreciate community. And in fact, I do think there's a lot of people in the liberty and truth world that have gone too far into this hardcore individualism. Now, we have to respect people's autonomy and their individual rights, but we also have to recognize that as human beings, we're like a community tribal animal, and we really could benefit from supporting one another. Now, we're all meat eaters on the property. In fact, we got a chest freezer full of meat, and we're about to do a barbecue for my friend's birthday today, who also lives on the property. But no, I have no problem with vegans, although there are a lot of vegans out there that are pretty militant, and they're the types
I'm not.
All right, good to know.
I cook for his children.
He's not a lifestyle vegan. I will attest to that.
Yeah.
There's
you're welcome. We have some
man,
going too.
3 years ago when I met you in Los Angeles, a little more lifestyle vegan.
Well, I was new to it, and I was just all happy about it, and kind of, I was proud to be a vegan. But that's because of, I believe what we do with factory farming is just awful. When it comes to chickens, beef, the whole 9 yards. I mean, I've always liked Joe Rogan's kind of way of eating meat. He hunts his own food, that sort of thing. But, I broke my veganism the first time after almost close to 2 years when I went to Latin America. And, being an Italian guy who's born in the restaurant business, born in the kitchen, I wanted to experience their cultures the way it was, the food they ate there. So, I shut my mouth up, and whatever was put in front of me, I ate. And there was a lot of beef and pork and lobster and all that other stuff. But when I came back to the States, I got on the right track and whatnot. I just think it's like kind of intriguing now today to see a lot of people who, maybe, the libertarian movement, a lot of patriots, whatnot, where they're getting into growing their own food. So they're kind of even looking into the door to at least having a lot of vegetables, grown themselves. And getting that into their diet. So I'm just happy about that, because I think if everybody took a day, if we had no meat Mondays, and we just had one day and we incorporated other, vegan items into our diet, it would just help the whole planet out,
Sure. Yeah. There's a healthy way to convey that as you are. And then there's this unhealthy Illuminati driven. You will eat the bugs and be happy. You will own nothing and be happy. So we all just have to be aware, make sure that we're not getting played. But yeah, most definitely healthy vegetables and a well-balanced diet. And my diet, I largely just listen to my body. Right. And so a lot of folks are into this whole carnivore thing and say it has amazing events just to do amazing benefits, just to do meat. But I desire fresh fruit often. Like I crave the fresh fruit and I crave spinach and greens. And I know like if we need to go to the grocery store and we've had a couple meals and they're light on the fresh produce, my body starts to be like, hey, man, you need to go eat some spinach. So I always just encourage people to listen to their body. But we ought to respect other people and their choices at the end of the day. That's really what it's all about.
Here's the thing too, John, you're not being subsidized. The meat industry in America is subsidized by the government. I mean, it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's different.
Sugar, corn.
It's ridiculous.
It's a scam.
Well, that's part of what trying to get as far extricated from the technocratic state, no matter where you are, because it's stuff you can do even if you have like apartment life. If you take the time and the pain to go through with it.
I love that word, by the way.
You can, I mean, there are solutions to this. There are ways around it. There are ways out of it. And the disruption of food supply, the disruption of the supply chain intentionally is something that I really don't think people are giving enough weight to, because they have all kinds of other nonsense distractions being pushed at them. But I mean, 3 days without regular food deliveries, and it's going to get pretty ugly in major cities.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, John, you don't have to worry about that, do you, John?
Well, I'm not as far along as I should be, but we have the pieces in place to ensure that our community will be taken care of. And because we have such a strong, resilient community, I feel confident if or when crap really does hit the fan, we are going to be able to figure it out. And it's important for folks to put their pieces in place now while things are still relatively calm and orderly. And to help folks to do that, actually, we're hosting a workshop on September 3rd. It's called the Exit and Build Homesteading on a Budget workshop. And we're going to teach people, because in our Exit and Build stuff, we did this big land summit. We had thousands and thousands of people tune in online. We had 450 people in person here in Bastrop County, where our 10-acre homestead is. And we're encouraging people to leave the cities, buy land, build community, buy land cooperatively, or buy land on your own, but link up with your neighbors, right? And one of the biggest obstacles that people kept on bringing up was, I can barely pay rent. I'm struggling to make ends meet. How could I possibly buy land? And so in my work as a leader and a supporter of people in their exit and build strategy, I really get focused on people's self-imposed limiting beliefs. And I strongly believe I don't have enough money to grow my own food or to homestead or to buy land is a limiting belief. And so we're doing an entire workshop all day on Saturday, September 3rd, to teach people how they can go big with limited resources. We're going to teach people how they can do container gardens, how they can grow tomatoes on the back porch of the apartment. We're going to, my friend Brad, who put together that beef share, he's going to teach people how they can cooperatively buy beef at a great price and distribute it amongst their community. Natural, organic, grass-fed beef, I should say. We're going to be joined by Marjorie Wildcraft, who's one of the nation's, maybe the world's leading experts on food production. And she really focuses on how to do it in a scrappy kind of way. We're also going to be joined by Paul Wheaton. He's one of the world's leading experts on permaculture. And he put together this program called SKIP, where he links up elderly folks that have homesteads and farms that don't want to pass it to their kids because they'll probably sell it. They don't want to die and like the government takes it over. So they're going to link those people up with younger people that are willing to put in the time to learn permaculture skills and practices so they can maybe take over these properties. So there's a whole lot of opportunity out there. And the first thing that people need to do is just get out of their own way. And instead of thinking of ways that it can't work, focus on how it can work. And we're hoping to teach people to do that. Folks can learn more at livefree.academy/budget, livefree.academy/budget to sign up for that workshop.
We need to embrace that, Steve. I think,
let's go.
We got to get some buckets. We got a little patio and try to make it work. I know there's no direct sunlight. It's very limited, but I figure we can just try to make it work as best we can, whatever we can grow. you know?
Yeah, you got to just experiment. It's all experience is the greatest teacher. And in all honesty, it's not the easiest thing to take something from seed to fruit. It's actually easier to raise chickens and livestock, but that's probably going to be pretty challenging in an apartment. But you got to just start learning. A lot of people are like, I have my survival seed bank I bought from InfoWars 10 years ago, and I'm going to be fine if crap hits the fan. But you know, it's a challenge. And so you just start by growing some tomatoes or okra, whatever's simple. Squash is always pretty easy. You can even set up like a vertical aquaponics or hydroponics garden on one of those wire shelves and just get things going and learn. But also, it doesn't have to be the situation where you're growing all your own food. For example, we're not growing a significant portion of our food in the least bit, but we're linking up with local food producers so we can create that network. So if crap does hit the fan, we've already built those relationships and we've shared value based on shared values. So we're going to be okay. Nothing's more important than community and relationships, really, at the end of the day. So it's important that folks get out there and build those connections now so we can get each other's back when things get really ugly.
Yeah. He's been talking about parallel societies for quite some time.
Well,
man.
this is shit that like even the people who are on the left who at least understand the concept of mutual aid can process. You know, the last couple of years of lockdowns, whether we're a number of people that flocked towards the Freedom Cell thing, there were people who were like shut-ins, but they were still orchestrating mutual aid networks, and you can transfer the basic principles over. The way that John just explained how a community operates, I think is something that's a transferable message. The problem, I said this yesterday too, with the left is that they all want to be collectively in charge, but they all want to be led. Yeah, and that's where the paradox
that is true, man.
Kind of lies, is that they all want everything to be taken care of, but they all want to be in charge too.
Yeah,
and that's not how a build works. It's not how a kitchen operates. It's not how a household operates. Nope. That's not how any other facet of life operates. But you know, there is an understanding that people who are best suited to provide either leadership, help, or whatever are going to fill those roles. That doesn't mean you have to call it governance or hierarchy. That means you have to take each situation as it arises and engage mutualistically and voluntarily.
Yeah. I like what John is saying. We have to get into the practice of this, because like you're not just going to grab those seeds that you had from Alex Jones's show from 10 years ago. And just because, it does take practice. I have a black thumb. I've never I got to get over this. I have to learn how to do this. I just killed a bonsai tree, for crying out loud. You know what I'm saying? Like so I want to get in the practice of this. And I think that's very important, because when the shit does hit the fan, we already want to be in practice.
Yeah, for sure. And that workshop, I'll give you an invite to join us. We're going to really take it down to the basics and simplify things. It doesn't have to be difficult, although it can be challenging, but really you just start to gain that experience. And I just can't emphasize enough the importance of community, because when it comes to building, when it comes to cryptocurrency, when it comes to gardening, there's a lot of people that are really good at it. And those people are more than happy to share their knowledge and wisdom and lend a helping hand with folks if you just speak up and express that you're looking for some help and some support. So that's a cool thing about the Freedom Cell Network, is we've organized a community. We've attracted people that recognize the problem, right? We're not going to be naive about what's going on in the world, but we're also not going to spend all our time forwarding articles on Telegram or going down the rabbit hole, and it occupies all of our time and all of our energy and focus. We're going to recognize the problem. We're going to understand the problem so we can strategically navigate around the problem. And we're going to spend almost all of our time on building and on solutions. And the Freedom Cell Network is a bunch of people where that's our ethos. Everybody understands this is what we're here to do. We're not here to debate about graphene and the vaccine or whatever Klaus Schwab's latest quote is all about. We're here to build a better world for ourselves, our family, and the future generations to come.
And I think that it's just so naturally easy for people to try to fall into a camp rather than just acknowledge that there are people who are working overtime to make sure that they stay in some sort of position of power or perceived power, and that you stay subject to their megalomaniacal pig whims. And that's just it. Like, you have to find a good guy out of all of those bad guys in order to participate on some level. And no, there's a much, much, much different way. I'm really glad that over the last couple of years, there have been more people that have organized around these principles, because these weren't conversations, John, that you and I would have with people 15, 17, 20 years ago that were coming out of the truth movement necessarily. They weren't really things that people were focused on in terms of we've got to opt out. It was just that we've got to get to the bottom of it. Now we have to get into an argument about hologram planes or place charges or whatever. Like, then everything gets lost, and it's like
energy beams.
Yeah. We can all agree that there was fuckery afoot.
That's right. Yeah, I think a lot of people understand the problem at this point, and it's been quite a trip just recognizing and being aware of this for 20 years, because back in the day, it was like, we got to stop the New World Order. They're bringing out this plan, and if we don't stand up now, we're going to be living in this panopticon nightmare technocracy, right? And after COVID, that reality came to being, and the systems were put in place, and the people were so scared out of their wits that they willingly accepted some really hardcore tyranny and technocracy. And so now I think people are like, whoa, this isn't just a theory. This is happening now, and it's affecting me. I lost my job. My family member took the jab. They're teaching my kids weird stuff in government school, right? And so that's why we saw the Freedom Cell Network before COVID. It was around 1,000 people globally. It grew literally from 1,000 to 33, which is pretty wild. It's funny we say 33. Everybody's all weird about that number, but
I was looking for our bell to ding.
But I want to invite people to join. We just relaunched the website. It's new and improved. They can join the network at freedomcells.org. That's cells like cells in the body, which is interesting because like the health of a whole body is contingent upon the health of the individual cells, just as the health of the individual cells is contingent upon the whole body. Just the same, the health of our Freedom Network is contingent upon the individuals and their exiting and building goals, and the health of the individuals is contingent upon the entire network. So folks can join at freedomcells.org. We'll invite them to register. If they want to use a fake email or fake name, by all means, and then they're invited to share their skills, what the role they want to play, whether they're a builder or they own land and they're looking for community members, or they're a technologist, they want to learn about privacy or help people with privacy and encryption and all that stuff. And then we invite people to put a pin on a map. Now, don't put your home address, but maybe a park down the street or the local coffee shop where you can meet up with people. And you may just find in your area, there's already dozens, if not hundreds, of freedom-minded people that are actively participating in the creation of this new world. For example, we got this 10-acre homestead. We're in the middle of the country, basically in the middle of nowhere, although we're about 20 minutes from a nice small town. And there's literally like 5 different Freedom Cell households within a 5-minute area of where we're at. Really groovy. People tell us all the time that they put themselves on the map and learn that there's somebody like 3 streets down or on the other block across the street in the Freedom Cell Network. So they want us to think that we're completely isolated in some fringe minority, when in reality, nothing could be further from the truth. There's a lot of people that are waking up. And so we're super excited to provide this resource for people to accelerate the pursuit of sovereignty.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm all for that. What I found in the Freedom Cell groups is basically what John said, but there are some very like hyper specialized groups within there that have just some of the coolest information that I wouldn't have never thought of going to look for on my own had I not just been like scrolling through to see if there was an up and running group around where I was. Vegas is pretty slim on the Freedom Cell communities. And I feel
Have we
like,
looked?
Yeah, I feel I did before we came out here. I feel like it's a place where there's enough liberty-minded people and there's enough people that can look around at this freaking cesspool of misery and go, there's a different way to do this, that we could have a vibrant counter economy here. I mean, it's a town built by the mob. I'm pretty sure we could figure out counter economy in Vegas.
Agorists there for sure. Well, they were unethical, so unfortunately, the thing is, a lot of people put themselves out there and then they say there's nobody else in the area, which is the case in some areas. And so when that's the case, we need people to step up as leaders, right? That classic Kevin Costner movie, Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. So the thing to do for folks that feel as though in their area there's not a lot of people is to host meetups, is to go do outreach to like Libertarian Party, maybe some Patriot prepper groups, the local homeschooling community, the farmers market, and to put yourself out there and get uncomfortable a little bit, right? And start to find people, and you strike up conversations, and you start kind of slow with the conversation. Like, hey, are you guys concerned with what's happening in the economy? Or have you heard about this central bank digital currency scheme? Or are you guys concerned about food security? Did you see that the shelves were empty at the supermarket down the street? Well, I'm part of this global community, although we're active here in Las Vegas, and we're looking to build these networks where we can support one another and help one another. And the counter economy, man, there's nothing more important than creating these parallel economies, because that central bank digital currency scheme, where they're going to have complete digital money that's not only trackable and traceable, and you can analyze it, but they can also hinder your ability to purchase certain goods or services, or just like the Book of Revelations and Mark of the Beast shared, they'll be able to stop you from doing commerce if you don't have your vaccine, or if you've exceeded your monthly carbon allotment for your household. Who knows how far it will go? Yeah. We saw exactly what happened with Trudeau in Canada and the trucker convoy, right? So it's contingent upon us there's three things that I think can counter these CBDCs. One is entrepreneurship. You're in control of your life. You own your own business. You're adding value to other people in exchange for money. You can choose what type of money you receive, especially if you're catering to the freedom community. The second piece is cryptocurrency, specifically privacy-based cryptocurrencies like Monero or Pirate Chain. A lot of folks, there's this catch-22, I guess you could call it that, but there's a lot of folks that think that cryptocurrency is part of this Mark of the Beast panopticon system.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think nothing could be further from the truth. I think that the cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin, caught the establishment off guard. And I've been involved in the space since 2011, 2012. And back then it was like, Bitcoin is going to end the Federal Reserve. Well, we didn't know how cunning and savvy these guys are, because they recognize that the technology is beneficial for them too. And now they're leveraging that technology to create these massive databases. But it's such a powerful tool for free people, precisely because it enables us to exchange value, to engage in financial transactions with one another without anything they can do to stop it. And when you do the privacy coins, because Bitcoin has a public and transparent blockchain, meaning every single transaction that takes place, while it may not be tied to your identity, it's tied to your address that you use, which is kind of like your account number. Well, the cool thing about these privacy coins, every single transaction is completely obscured. It's totally secret. So the folks that are like, I'll never learn cryptocurrency because it's part of the scam, it's part of the New World Order, they are missing out on the opportunity to continue to do business with one another over the internet when this central bank digital currency scheme comes about, right? Now, we should be doing these local trade networks, and the guy down the street has the chickens, and I got the butter over here and the raw milk or whatever, or this guy does the plumbing and this guy cuts hair. That's really important as well. But if we want to continue to do business online, which I do business online all the time, in fact, my businesses are online businesses in addition to some local stuff, these privacy coins are going to be our ticket. Now, I imagine a lot of the folks that are against crypto and don't want to learn it in the first place, I don't even know what the heck they're going to do. And for folks that are completely against it, I often ask, okay, you're against crypto. What's your solution? What are you building? Because there's a global infrastructure that's decentralized, uncontrollable, that's in place. Just got to learn how to use it. So I think it's really critical that we start. Again, a lot of people are so busy, and we got the inflation and the income tax, and it's really hard to think about these things actually, in reality, a lot of folks that are aware of the problem, they spend so much time focused on the problem, giving all of their attention and energy to the New World Order, researching this, documentary that, this, that, and the other. But really what we need to be doing is, what can I do now so as to avoid this technocratic nightmare in the future? That is the question we need to be asking ourselves, and we need to be taking action based on what answers we come up with.
Yeah, I think in the last conversation we did talk about mentioning, just acknowledging the problem, and then be like, what's the answers? Like, I don't know the answer, but when it does come to cryptocurrencies, fiat, and the monetary system, I think we do need to know what the answer is, because, we need to eat. We need to pay for bills. We need to do these things. So in that particular conversation, I like the fact that, yeah, we do have to come to some conclusion or decision. It's okay to look at the possibility of what cryptocurrencies can be, especially the decentralized ones. But I think that is one thing we need to have an answer for when we're having that discussion, by the way. And you did mention Field of Dreams, John Bush. I just want to point out that if you really are talking to Ray Liotta this time, you really are talking to a ghost. All right, that joke is not really, that's a bad joke, and I'm not going to use it anymore at all.
You lost me on that one. Because I haven't seen the movie in like 10 years, so
any more implies that you've trotted it out more than once.
I can't nail that joke.
I would reel that one back in. Yeah.
He did mention Field of Dreams. I'm glad.
It's worth a try. It's like growing food. You got to at least throw it out there, see if it sticks.
That joke is dead, John. I'm never using it again. It's done. Sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
Retiring.
I totally forgot where I was,
because my bad joke just ruined the moment.
At least you're having a good time.
I deflated the whole
thing I was gonna piggyback off of that John was talking.
Well, he's talking about central bank
crypto.
Yeah. So okay. In terms of making people aware that there are alternatives, like that's. Dude, it's so paramount. I think this show tries to ride a pretty fine line between narrative deconstruction and pointing out the inherent flaws in a centralized state with a monopoly on violence, and then showing the alternatives, and then showing the solutions, and having conversations with people like Jim Gale and with like Tim Scott, with
Jim's man.
And people that are actually going out into the community. If we had 15 Maj Torres, dude, we'd be in a whole different space right now. We really would. And those kinds of mindsets where you don't get to build community. You can't build the kind of community that's going to thrive until you know how to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. I like that. And to go back to what he said, we were talking about earlier, is that
I have no idea where the echo's coming.
I think it's John's microphone.
Maybe. Let me turn my speakers down. Should be better.
There we go.
Yeah. I asked in the beginning if you guys had any experience with hemp pellets or something by using hemp for energy.
I just kind of threw that out as a what the fuck the day that you asked it. I've never actually.
No, I've heard people talk about it. I've seen articles on it before in the past, as far as like using hemp for energy.
Well, I've seen these little. I've seen them on Amazon, where it's this little device, right? And you can put not just hemp pellets. Hemp pellets would work, but you can put like twigs and sticks, right? And then it's like a rocket stove, basically. But they're able to capture some of the energy from the heat, which I think is pretty groovy.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I want to know more about. I keep saying, like, I understand that we can tap into hemp when it comes to toilet paper and all the products we use that are made from lumber and wood and cotton. So, it's just energy. If we can use that to solve it. And also Steve has explained to me too, as well, the growing process, that's got to be controlled, because it could just start pollinating.
Well, the problem is the hemp pollinates for about at least 10 square miles. So if anyone has an outdoor cannabis grow anywhere near it, it's screwed.
Greenhouse though is different, because if you
have a 2-stage clean room where you've got pollen being blown off of you before you put on another suit, yeah, absolutely. And I helped out with a couple of those in Northern California, where we actually did build a clean room, because they were 2 properties over. They had something like 30 acres of hemp that they were producing. But it was super danger zone, because everybody else around it had a cannabis farm. And if the wind was blowing the wrong way, then your entire business is screwed.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I'd love to hook you guys up with my friends River and Amani. They go deep on the hemp thing, and
Please do.
they want to create a hemp manufacturing facility that creates modular hemp homes, right? So you have like manufactured homes, then you have this modular home where the pieces are built in a factory, then they're all delivered and assembled. And I mean, that's the kind of idea that's like, man, I need to bring some more money in so I can invest.
If you could do 3-bedroom prefabs, just assembly style, you'd be crushing it, man. You would be absolutely crushing it. And the prefab homes go together super easy. Like an actual idiot can have one dropped off on his property,
like
and
Biden voter
with one of his buddies, a case of beer and a whole bunch of fuck ups can still
I can put it together,
put the house together.
And I can't change my windshield wiper blade, Steve. Can I do it?
We're gonna work on that.
All right,
that's something we can get to.
We're all learning today.
We talked about too, like all the plastics that are made right from and it's made from oil, of course, as well. But if we can subsidize all that with hemp products that are biodegradable, there's a company in Florida that for their canned beers make the thing that holds it together, like the pieces, like with normally the plastic that ends up in the ocean, and it turns into fish food when it gets into the water. Stuff like that. I mean, we need to
just encourage everybody to litter all of their shit into the ocean, though. Like, isn't that kind of
well? I think it ends up in the ocean. There's nothing you can do about it. All those other plastic things end up in the ocean. They fuck with the turtles. So they're coming up with solutions that work. But I mean, anything that turns into food, fish food, or just, it doesn't end up in our ocean with all this plastic. It's ridiculous. If hemp is the solution and we can really tap into it, let's tap into it.
It's,
that kind of technology and work in those areas where people that really care about the environment present free market solutions, decentralized solutions, innovative solutions. I think if more people focused on that, it would really take away one of the tools that the New World Order has in their tool belt, which is to leverage environmentalism in order to usher in these technocratic controls. So that's definitely important work in the world. And one of the things I realized early on was like, there's these problems, and unfortunately, a significant portion of the population has been programmed to believe that government is the solution or the institution that we ought to utilize in order to solve these problems. So if we recognize that government is a fraud and just controls people and leverages and manipulates people, one thing we can do to take their power away is to show people through action that there's another way to solve these common problems. Free markets, decentralization, hemp, for example, is a wonderful benefit to the environment. So I'm all about it. And I can tell that you're concerned about the environment, which is great. And that your mind is on these alternative solutions, because that's really the way that we should be thinking with that stuff.
Because we don't have nuanced conversations. It's feast or famine. It's it doesn't exist. It's a hoax. Let's frack. Let's produce our own oil and energy. Let's turn to the government with these ESGs and let them handle the situation and put restrictions on nitrates or whatever it is. Or what are they complaining about now in Netherlands that they can't? Is it
nitrogen?
Nitrogen. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But we all know at the end of the day, we know that it's just a plot to take over the small farmers and consolidate everything.
Well, we know that the carbon they want to reduce is us. That's what we know.
Damn.
We know when they talk about going to net zero carbon, that's a depopulation program.
Yeah.
The entire planet needs carbon dioxide. We're carbon-based life forms.
Yeah.
The idea that we're going to walk around with carbon credits or a carbon wallet or a carbon score that we have to operate under is almost as big a scam as you can vote in a free and fair election in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of the big reasons why we're encouraging people to leave the cities and to populate freedom communities in the country, because there's certain areas, there's a big distinction between living in the city, a big city especially, and living in the country, just as there's a big distinction between living in New York, California, or Massachusetts, or living in Florida or Texas. So it's really important that folks vote with their feet and find areas that are more free and find areas that are densely populated with freedom lovers, because it's in the big cities where most of these technocratic controls, the smart city agenda, the 5G, the interconnectivity, the Internet of Things, that's where that stuff's going to roll out most effectively and efficiently. And in the country, there's going to be less of a stranglehold. This is precisely why Agenda 21 wants to make it difficult to live in the country and herd everyone into these compact, smart growth cities, right? So it's like, that's what they want us to do so they can control us. Well, we need to be doing the opposite. And we actually did a whole 2-day summit. We're doing it, or actually it was 3 days. We're doing it again next May. And people can watch the whole replay. We talk about strategies and inspiration, and we hear from folks that have moved out to the country, and we're offering the replay for that still. It was last May for folks to watch at exitandbuildlandsummit.com, exitandbuildlandsummit.com, because honestly, my life is radically different now that I live out in the country. No traffic. There's fewer and fewer masks. You hardly see a mask nowadays. When I go into Austin, which is where I grew up, just west of here, cool city, cool people, but it's gone very hard left and relatively communist. Everyone's still wearing masks, and it's weird. And you could see like, oh, they're talking about another wave or this Delta Mu, whatever the heck, who cares?
Big monkeypox outbreak coming.
Now the monkeypox, man.
Any day now.
Okay, let's talk
You're gonna
about
have your monkeypox in your dog. And it's gonna be a whole monkey palooza.
Hey, we're the monkeys.
John, fornication, is that what you call California? That where privatization of almost everything in California, other than your thoughts, is privatized. I mean, we do live in a capitalist society. We do realize that, right?
Through the nose in taxes in California.
I don't know, man.
You do, but everything is privatized.
Have you read this Communist Manifesto? There's these 10 planks for communism, and a significant number of them are in effect in the U.S., from an income tax to the central banking system. And you think that it's privatized when in reality, corporations are an instrument of the state. Without the state, there's no corporation, and it gives people a veil.
That's called fascism. That's not called communism. That's called fascism.
It's both. It is. If you have a centralized system of power that has control of what was considered private industry and what is considered public services, then we're talking about the shape of the hat. And we're talking about the color of the uniform at that point, whether it's communism or fascism, because
totalitarianism.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So we can call it that.
We can agree on
that. We
that.
should call it that too, as well, because, like, you know, I don't want to get into this conversation.
Well,
we don't have much
California time. Or what?
No, not at all. And I am not advocating for communism or socialism in any way, shape, or form.
He's got to go on a show with a communist tomorrow. Who is also his other co-host on his other show.
And it's kind of so funny.
That razor, man.
Nah, that's not what
Pasta is tap dancing.
I believe in
every day.
I believe in a Steve is completely wrong. I believe in a mixed economy, right? And I believe in embracing the parts of economy that work for everybody. You know what I'm saying? When I say mixed economy, I don't believe that water should be privatized. I believe the state should be in charge of water, not Nestle, not Coke, not all these other. And I understand the problems with that. So, you know, I want to find a good comfort zone where government is small, but I still believe that we need a government to actually work right now at this state where we're at. You know what I'm saying? And it's when I said to you earlier, I said, you live on a commune. You're like, well, it's not a commune because you want to avoid that world, but you're living basically
we're living communally, but I own the property. My fiance and I own the property, and there's someone that rents, and there's someone that helps out with the property and adds value, so they live there without rent. But you know, I'm a total anarchist, and
I agree.
You know, I kind of lost my roots with talking about anarchism and helping people to come over to anarchism. But you know, at the end of the day, the challenge with what you're advocating is that the corporations and these powerful people, they just control the state. And when this institution exists, an institution that enables people, human beings, to control other people through regulations, and at the end of the day, it's all backed up with force and violence, or the threat of violence, which is coercion. that type of institution attracts the very people that you're concerned with, that you want there to be a state to protect natural resources against. And that's the big challenge. It's like the ring from the Lord of the Rings. So in all reality, when things are privately owned and there's consequences for hurting other people or damaging the earth, I think that we could create an environment where people have an incentive to protect their private property or to protect a natural resource.
But
now,
you're not equating that capital will still conquer all, and those with a lot of capital. See, the whole thing is like we're trying to blame the state for what the merging of the corporations, when it was the corporations who bought out.
Real quick, let me interrupt you. There's no corporation without the state. It's a corporate. The corporation is a state empowered institution. Just to be clear,
you don't get to become a corporation without state.
You literally file a legal document. I have.
We understand where the interest, who's making the decisions, where the money is coming from, and it's the actual corporation itself. I don't care what the technicalities are. It's who's making the decision.
It's a pretty important distinction.
Well, it is, because the method of dispersal, the method of weaponization, the methods of getting this agenda through all flow through the state. So without that entity there, you don't get all of the things that allow for the agenda to be accomplished in the first place.
I understand what you're saying.
The pipeline, what was the name of the big pipeline? The Dakota Access Pipeline, right? So that's a corporation that was putting in this pipeline using the state's power of eminent domain. All these people rose up. My good friend Derek Bros was there, right? And who is it that rolls out to quash the protest? It's the state. It's the violent mechanism. It's the enforcement arm, which is law enforcement, right?
Yes.
So I would argue, absent the state, there's still going to be greedy people. Call them whatever you want, capitalists. There's also greedy socialists, right? There's going to be greedy people, but they're going to be less ability to project their greed and their psychopathy onto other people without the state. Not to mention, if they really become tyrannical, it's going to be easier for us to put them down or to avoid them altogether, because there'll be some semblance of justice. But with the state, a lot of bad actors are legitimized because they're doing something that's legal, or they have the protection arm of the state, law enforcement, that can come in and bust up the trade, the union protest, for example, right?
Yeah. You did point out the fact that the corporation manipulated the state, right? You said that used the state to gain power. It's a form of capitalism.
That's what allowed them the existence in the first place.
Yeah, but it's a form of capitalism in which they bought lobbyists and paid lobbyists to go manipulate the state. And listen here,
that works.
We're really doing this with like 9
No, we're not doing this. At the end of the day,
let's all come together.
At the end of the day, I think that a lot of people who call themselves communists in the United States really aren't advocating for communism. They're advocating for workers' rights, and that's what needs to be changed. So as long as we understand,
that's a whole different
concept. I know it is
hardcore, man. You could be for workers' rights and even be a socialist, but communism's like, wow, this is some extreme authoritarianism here.
When people advocate for capitalism, I think they're advocating for freedom and choices. So I just want to point out those things.
I like to use the term voluntary exchange. I'm for voluntary exchange, whatever form that can take. Just two people coming together for mutual benefit. If they're exchanging value for value, money for service, whatever, I support that wholeheartedly.
We love value for value here, John Bush.
Let's go.
It's true. It's true. That's how we've chosen to monetize the show.
Oh yeah, I saw y'all are on Rokfin. I need to get on that channel. There's a lot of people watching. People are donating and stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah, and we don't do advertisements or sponsors or any of that stuff. It's entirely audience produced.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna go ahead and thank you for your time, and thanks for hanging out. We're gonna have to do this again.
Yeah, Jay.
And let everybody know at least 15 to 35 of the places where they can find the stuff that you're up to out of the 4,000 different projects that you have going on. Thank you for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, cool. Well, like I said, we talked a lot about homesteading and resiliency and creating community. And so I would really want folks to check out this workshop that we're doing, Exit and Build Homesteading on a Budget. A lot of people think that because they don't have a lot of money or they're struggling to make ends meet, the whole exit and build thing, which is exiting these institutions we object to and building better ones that are decentralized and voluntary, that's not for them. But we want to teach people there are ways to do it scrappy. There's ways to go big, even if you have limited resources. And that's all taking place September 3rd. The workshop you can learn more and you can register at livefree.academy/budget, livefree.academy/budget. I also mentioned the Exit and Build Land Summit. People can watch that for free. The budget workshop, it's $57. We usually charge quite a bit more for our workshops, but we wanted this to be more accessible. So we want to invite people to take part in that. But if they want to watch the Exit and Build Land Summit and learn some similar information, that's completely free. People can register at exitandbuildlandsummit.com. And then finally, we talked about hemp. I run a couple companies. One of them is called Brave Botanicals, and we sell kratom, CBD, Delta 8. And so if people want to try Delta 8, it's like THC, but it's made from the hemp plant. So it's legal. It's kind of a loophole. We got these really sweet blueberry gummies. And one of the marketing strategies we use is just to give it away for free to people so they can try it. And maybe if they like it, we can find a new client to build a relationship with. But if people want to try 5 25 milligram Delta 8 gummies, they can go to freed8gummies.com, freed8gummies.com. Just pay $5 for shipping and handling, and we'll send them. Now, mind you, the Delta 8 gummies are illegal in some states, so you'll have to learn if you qualify or not whenever you come to the website. But it's
is it
really
the number
great.
8 or the word 8? The number 8 or the
number
word
8, yeah. The number 8 gummies.com. And yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on. I appreciate y'all's rapport. You guys have got a good thing going here, so I'd love to come on and join you again.
Heck yeah,
Yeah,
man.
please do, man. Please do. And thank you for coming on the show today. We learned a lot, and I want to continue this conversation.
Excellent. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Heck yeah. John Bush, everybody.
Everybody.
Connor.